Hello, and welcome to the first Just Another Apocalypse episode, Folsom Outbreak. If you want to see more content like this, please give us a like and leave a comment with your ideas, suggestions, comments, whatever you like. Now, on to our story. You could smell the weekend before you even got close as it settled over the city. Leather mixed with burnt rubber, wet asphalt, the faint tang of the Bay air that always seemed to carry a hint of rust, salt, and old diesel. The streets of SoMa glowed under a low orange haze, Carl rolling in soft over the rooftops. My Harley rumbled beneath me, deep and throaty, echoing off the warehouses and old brick like it was alive. And for that night, maybe it was. Folsom Weekend, the climax of Leather Pride Week in San Francisco, my favorite week of the year. You could never really understand what that weekend means unless you've been a part of it. Not just the street fair, not just the bodies packed shoulder to shoulder in harnesses, boots, and gear, but the spirit behind it. All of us misfits, queers, bikers, bears, leatherfolk, kinks and freaks alive together in the city that saw us and never stopped making room for us. From the Castro to the ferry building, the air had a charge to it, like static before a storm. I rolled down Market Street to Folsom, past the tents going up for the fair, past guys laughing in line outside Powerhouse, and turned down the narrow side street to where the dock sat like some holy relic of the old world. It wasn't the original dock. That closed years ago. This was a revival of that amazing place. A warehouse turned leather bar, steel doors, no windows, and the smell of sweat, beer, and leather baked right into the concrete. My boots hit the pavement. The crowd noise inside was a pulse you could feel in your chest even before crossing the threshold. I took a breath, adjusted my vest, black leather, patches and pins from rides long gone and a little dusted from road grit, and headed in. The bouncer, a big guy in a mesh tank and a grin like he'd seen it all, clapped me on the shoulder.
"Evening, Red."
"Evening, Diesel," I said, flashing my grin back. Still keeping the animals in line. He chuckled.
"Barely. Had to send one dude to the ER after he passed out. Too much fun if you ask me."
"Wow, it's the night for it, I guess," I said evenly. "I passed several ambulances getting here. You'd think it was a full moon." Diesel smiled just a little.
"Well, get in there before that moon makes the boys any wilder."
Inside there was heat and noise and the scent of something primal. Not the kind that came from temperature, but from men on the prowl. The dock was alive, music pounding, air thick with sweat and beer, and the faint, sweet burn of poppers. Leather and rubber shined in the dim red light, boots scuffed against the floor, chains clinked, and laughter rolled like thunder. After getting a beer, I waded back into the mass of revelers and gear. I slowly made a loop of the ground floor, occasionally catching the eye of someone cruising hard, but I kept going. The night was too young, and I had special plans to celebrate this year's Folsom Weekend. I went up to the second floor and around the catwalk that ringed the front 2/3 of the bar space, and then back towards the upper cruising area and backroom entrance. I saw my crew near the back, hands in the air, already half drunk, talking loud and shining with joy. There was Rob, thick beard, tattoos snaking up his arms, wearing that damn vest he'd had since the late 90s, and Ty, smaller than Rob, but loud as hell. As I parted the small crowd, they saw me and waved me over with a bottle of beer.
"Red,"
Rob said,
"was beginning to think you decided not to come."
Wouldn't miss it, I said, sliding into the group, letting the music wrap around me. The beat hit hard, bass deep enough to vibrate the ribs. The dock always felt like stepping into another dimension, one where you could drop your guard and let the city's noise fall away. After 10 years, it never got old. Rather, it felt like coming home. Leather creaked when I moved. Warm bodies brushed close. Someone handed me a beer. Another slapped my ass in passing. We talked for a bit, catching up, watching the ebb and flow of the crowd, soaking up the energy of the night. And then I saw him. He really had made it. He was leaning by one of the steel beams under a red light, talking to a bartender. Built, tall, broad shoulders, dark hair slicked back, a smile that said he knew exactly the kind of looks he drew. After 10 years, he still knew how to get my attention. Tonight, though, he slowly looked around the crowd, nodding at something the bartender said, and then he finally caught me staring at him, and that trimmed beard parted with a loving, mischievous smile. My heart kicked. I grinned back like a kid in a candy store. Ty said something, but I didn't hear. He followed my gaze, smirked. "Oh, that one." He paused and looked again. "Wait, he... You two." "Yeah, he's trouble. But you already know that." "I like trouble." "Then go get him, cowboy." Oh, I did. The scene had begun. The music changed to something heavier, darker. Electric growl, low and slow. I crossed the floor, boots echoing faintly between beats. He watched, eyes full of heat as I got closer. Up close, he was even better. Eyes like dark glass. The kind that didn't give anything away. His vest was open, chest hair glistening with sweat. His black leather pants tucked into calf-high boots, and his black, tight-gloved hand holding his beer lazily.
"You look like you belong here,"
he said, voice rough, low as I stopped next to him. "I do," I said. "I make a point to come to the city near every damn year for this." He grinned and said,
"Name's Marcus."
"Dex, but my friends call me Red," I said, offering my gloved hand. He didn't take it, just smiled, as the memory of that first night 10 years ago washed over the both of us. This is how we had met, how we had discovered each other, and this was our 10-year anniversary. He almost hadn't been able to get the time off, but he was here, and we were really doing a reenactment of that night. The same words, the same gear, all of it. He put his beer down and pulled me closer then, hand on the back of my neck, our foreheads almost touching. The spark of that first moment, now a deep memory of all the love we had shared since then.
"Good night to meet new friends, Red,"
he murmured. I could have stayed like that all night. And maybe I would have if I hadn't noticed the faint sound behind the music. Sirens. Distant, muffled. Nobody else seemed to notice. The crowd was too loud, too lost in the rhythm. But there it was, rising and fading, again and again. Marcus's eyes flickered and he frowned ever so slightly and then leaned in, lips near my ear.
"You smell that?"
I blinked, stepped out of the scene headspace we had been in. Smoke. He nodded slowly and looked around quickly.
"Something's burning."
Hopefully the fire department can get to whatever's burning before somebody gets hurt. We stood for a moment and came back to ourselves, drank some more beer. "Let's head back to my room," I said with a bit of concern. He looked at me and smiled. "Okay, let's get the party started then." I woke to the faint rumble of the city, a mix of engines, music from street corners, and the distant, insistent wail of sirens. Not the kind that fade away after a block or two wailing. These went on and on, wailing through the city like the world had caught fire overnight. For a moment, I just lay there, blinking against the morning light streaming through the blinds, still smelling faintly of leather, sweat, and someone else's scent. Marcus. He'd left sometime before dawn, just like he had that very first time so long ago, leaving with a grin and a promise to find me at the fair. I could still picture him leaning against a post at the dock. My stomach tightened thinking about it, and then the spell was broken. More damn sirens. I sighed, rolled out of bed, got over to the bathroom. So that I could shower and wash off the sin of the night before, I ate a quick breakfast I had packed before heading into the city, and then got dressed slowly, savoring the feel of my own gear. Dark red leather pants, knee-high black boots, gloves, full body harness, and my leather vest. It was well worn, comforting, a second skin. I checked my reflection. Yeah, we'd turn heads today, no doubt. Outside, the sun poked through the retreating fog. My Harley waited in the motel's parking lot, just east of the Lone Star on Harrison. I checked it over quickly to make sure no one had tampered with it, and then headed out, lazily walking towards Folsom Street and the growing celebrations. The street already hummed with the chaos of Folsom Sunday. Harnesses, boots, jocks, masks, studs, and chains everywhere. The smell of grilled meat mixed with leather, rubber, sweat, and the faint tang of poppers. The crowd moved like a living organism. Bodies brushing, boots clanging, laughter and music bouncing off the brick and concrete. I spotted Rob and Ty immediately, standing in front of a vendor selling chains and cuffs and other bondage equipment. Rob was in his usual worn vest and leather pants, thick beard catching the sunlight. Ty's chain harness gleamed against his dark skin, both already half drunk and grinning.
"Red!"
Rob called.
"You made it in one piece."
Ty smirked. Still walking upright. Must have been the top last night." I jogged over and winked at Ty. I turned to Rob and said, "Wouldn't miss it. This street's electric." Ty pointed down Folsom. "Hey, check out that line for the new harness vendor. Jesus, the crowd's wild today." We wandered down the street, taking in the fair. Stalls stacked with leather, chains, masks, jockstraps, floggers, cuffs, harnesses of every style. The energy was insane. People cruising hard. Many catching up with people they hadn't seen in a long time. Many were laughing, showing off gear, teasing each other over last year's antics. Rob nudged me.
"Remember the guy who tried to wear a full two-stiff harness for the first time?"
"Oh, yeah," I said after a moment. "He wanted to wear it all day, and then on the ride home. He didn't make it 2 blocks and was already chafing." Ty laughed. "Some people have no sense of what they can handle or pain tolerance." As we moved past one of the big stages, Marcus appeared suddenly, stepping out from a crowd near a long line of vendors. He caught my eye immediately. Chaps hugging his legs, his signature leather pride jock beneath, boots, knee-high and polished, gloves and armbands still gleaming in the sunlight, vest open, chest broad and strong, and that grin. Slow, deliberate, dangerous in the best way, spread across his face when he saw me. I felt my stomach flip. Marcus.
Red?
He said, voice low, warm, leaning in slightly.
Fancy meeting you here.
Rob and Ty had been walking ahead of me and finally noticed that I had stopped. Rob grinned.
Well, well, well. Looks like someone finally decided to show. Are you guys playing a game or something? I almost couldn't make it,
Marcus said.
The contractor wanted to keep me a few days extra in case something went wrong, but I couldn't miss this weekend.
Ty laughed, elbowing me. Oh, wait! This is your guys' anniversary! 10 years, and we wanted to reenact our first meeting, I finished. Marcus pulled me closer by the leather harness strap across my chest.
Mind if I join your crew for a bit? Looks like the party's just getting started.
Of course, I said, heart racing. But first, I reached into my vest pocket and pulled out a new chain collar and looked at Marcus. Got this last week to replace the old one that broke. Turn around, please. Marcus's eyes gleamed, and he turned around so that I could put the chain on and locked it with a new lock. He turned back to me with a grin that spoke so many things. He pulled the lock around and rested it on his chest. I love you, I said simply, and kissed him. I stood back, took the key, which had a long leather cord, and hung it around my neck. Now, let's go have some fun. The weekend was shaping up to be perfect as far as I was concerned. But still, something in the back of my brain was screaming, something was off. The sirens I had heard earlier hadn't stopped completely. Their coming and goings had just gotten quieter under the music. And here and there, you'd catch something strange. A guy coughing hard into his arm. A medic truck parked at the edge of the fair. A few cops walking faster than usual, faces tight. Still, nobody seemed worried. Everyone was too wrapped up in the celebration.
Hey, handsome, let's get something to drink,
Marcus said, and drew my attention back to him and the fair. The four of us moved through the crowd. We drank, checked out the vendors, swapped more scene stories, laughed at some of the outrageous gear, and watched an intense flogging scene. I felt Marcus brushing close to me every now and then, playfully teasing. Rob and Ty nudged me when Marcus went to refill our drinks and whispered,
You made a good choice when you first met him, brother. 10 years, and you two are going strong. You are so lucky.
Just as lucky as you two are, I said, which brought smiles to their faces. The fair stretched down Folsom, bodies pressed together, laughter and music blending into a heady rhythm. People posed for pictures, bartered for gear, flirted boldly, my hands brushing against Marcus's now and then, a lingering contact that sent sparks down my spine. Somewhere in the crowd, a well-known community vendor yelled, "Limited edition floggers! First come, first served!" A small group started moving towards the stall, boots clanging. Marcus grabbed my hand.
Race you.
"You're on," I said, laughing, and we ran together, leather creaking, boots pounding the pavement. We made it to the stall, breathless, both of us grinning like idiots. It was a perfect day. How could I have thought otherwise? We looked over the floggers and found one we liked when a distant scream cut through the music and laughter, different from any we had heard thus far. sharp and jagged, heads turned. Some people laughed nervously, maybe a demonstration getting too intense or possibly a fight. There were groups that looked to cause trouble at street fairs, isolate a person and bash them. Marcus leaned close, voice low against my ear.
Did you hear that?
I frowned. Yeah, sounds like someone's seriously screaming, but security will handle it, right? We exchanged a glance, and for a moment, the fair seemed a little smaller. The crowd a little tighter. The chaos of the outside world that had felt so far away suddenly pressing in. The fog was starting to roll in, sending a slight chill over my arms. That's when I noticed it. A man stumbling near one of the vendor tents, arms flailing, blood smeared across his shirt, eyes wide and unfocused, and he was emitting a low, guttural growl. The fairground energy, the music, the laughter, it all shifted. Something was wrong. Before anyone could move, another scream cut through the fair, just as sharp and raw as the first one. It had sliced through the music, the chatter, the smell of grilled meat and leather like an explosion. Heads near us turned. The bloody man still just stood where he had stopped, wide, unfocused eyes, mouth opening and closing, as if trying to form words that only came out as a low growl. The vendor near him moved, and the bloody man lunged at them with insane speed, teeth sinking into the flesh that he ripped open. Blood sprayed hot and wet onto the pavement, onto the stunned people in the booth. Panic erupted like a storm. People screamed, shoved, and ran. Marcus grabbed my hand, pulling me through the crowd. His grip was strong, grounding me, but I could feel the tension radiating off him like a wire strung tight. "Red, get out of the way!" a voice yelled. I turned to see Rob and Ty ducking behind a fallen display, wrestling off someone who had gone completely feral. Ty's arm was scraped, blood streaking through the dust on his skin. Rob swore and kicked, trying to buy a few seconds to escape. "Go!" I yelled, and we ran. Marcus kept pace beside me, boots clanging on the asphalt.
Where do we go?"
The streets were chaos incarnate. The people were falling, biting, screaming. Some were already on the ground, twitching, their eyes white and unseeing. Sirens wailed in the distance, but the music from some stubborn corner of the fair continued, looping over and over and over in eerie contradiction. We dodged bodies, overturned stalls, spilled beer, and leather flying in every direction. The smell of blood was thick and everywhere. A man stumbled into us, grabbed Marcus, teeth bared. I swung my arm, connecting hard. His head hit a metal post, and he collapsed, twitching. We didn't wait to see if he'd rise again.
"What the hell's happening?"
I don't know, but we're not staying to find out. As we pushed through the panicked crowd, I caught glimpses. More people falling, someone swinging a metal pole, a woman shrieking with blood on her hands, sirens wailing closer now, merging with the screams. We ducked into an alley between two bars, hearts pounding. The air stank of smoke and something else, iron, thick and wet. Marcus's face was pale.
You think it's, what, some terror thing?"
I don't know. Marcus was shaking.
"I've seen violence before, but that guy bit him. I saw it. He bit him and ripped him apart."
We tore down Folsom, weaving through panicked fairgoers, the smell of leather, blood, and smoke mixing into a haze of growing horror. People screamed as we passed, some already attacking each other, others frozen in shock. I caught glimpses of Rob and Ty further back, trying to fend off someone who had gone completely feral. I wanted to help, but I knew I couldn't. Stopping here in this chaos, it meant death. We finally hit the edge of the fair, running into slightly quieter streets, and I looked back just long enough to see the chaos. Tents were on fire now. People still running, biting, bleeding. Someone screaming for help that wouldn't come. Marcus leaned close.
Red, do you think anyone else made it?
I swallowed. Hands tight in fists. I don't know. But we're not done yet. We can't leave Rob and Ty. I won't leave them. He nodded, gripped my hand briefly in a silent promise.
Then we do this together.
The fair behind us was burning in more ways than one. The air thick with smoke, the cries of the growling infected, and the living mixed in a horrifying symphony.
We need weapons,
Marcus said. There, I said, pointing to some piping that had once been a part of a vendor display. Ran over, grabbed its lengths, and handed one to Marcus as he joined me.
How are we going to find them in this mess?
Marcus asked. We backtrack, I said, pointing to the last place I saw them. And we work our way back to the hotel parking lot. Our bikes and theirs were near there. Marcus nodded, and we moved. The fair and the city beyond had gone mad. Sirens wailed in every direction. Smoke curled into the sky, carrying the stench of burning tents and spilled beer. The fair that had felt alive, pulsing with music and leather and laughter, was gone. Everything was twisted now, the air thick with panic, blood, and something wrong. Marcus and I ran side by side down Folsom, boots pounding asphalt, dodging people who'd either gone feral or were frozen in shock. His grip on my hand was tight, grounding me, a reminder that I wasn't alone. Not yet. We hit a corner and came face to face with a group of the feral infected groaners. Their eyes were white, mouths slick with red, hands twitching and jerking unnaturally. Marcus swore and swung his pipe, sending one sprawling. I followed, knocking another back with a heavy swing with my boot as we ran past, calling Ty's and Rob's names. We ducked down an alley. I could hear growls behind us, feet scraping and wet. Too fast, too unnatural. Marcus pulled me close to the wall.
Red, we need to get out of here,
he said, voice tense. I know, I said. I can't leave without at least trying to find him. They'd do the same for us if they could. Hell, they may be doing just that, looking for us. Just hang on. Marcus nodded and smiled slightly. Another group of growlers started towards us, and we ran, the alley spitting us out on a side street where the chaos was even worse. A man I recognized from last year's fair, thick leather vest, harness like mine, lunged at another guy I knew, Bob, teeth bared. Bob didn't stand a chance. I turned to look at Marcus, who had squeezed my hand, but he was gone, running to save Bob. He swung just in time to throw off the attack, but the growler was fast. Bob fell back and ran as Marcus raised his pipe to swing again, and the thing moved like a blur and took Marcus down into the debris of a vendor stall. A scream tore through the air before I could even process. A scream I will never forget. The remains of that vendor stall had a throng of infected that fell on him, biting, clawing. I leapt from where I stood, heart hammering, but there was too many. I tried to reach for him, shouting his name, but it was too late. The growlers leapt at others nearby, leaving Marcus bleeding on the ground. He slowly turned his head towards me, eyes glassy. Wrong. I froze. I saw him, broken, bloody, and torn. Marcus! No, not him. The thing that had once been him. His hand, once strong, warm, shot out me, teeth snapping. I stumbled back, the world spinning, heart shattering. Marcus! I screamed, but it wasn't him anymore. I wanted to cry, to fall apart right there in the middle of Folsom. My boots were glued to the ground. The smell of blood was choking. I swallowed, forcing myself to focus. Survival. That was all that mattered at this moment. Survival. I grabbed my pipe and swung at one of the creatures that had taken Marcus, knocking it aside. More were coming, and I ran, weaving through destroyed vendors and fighting people. The memory of Marcus burned into my mind. Rob and Ty appeared suddenly, grabbing my arm. "Red, there you are. Where's—" Rob didn't even finish the sentence. He saw the answer in my eyes. "Fuck! Come on!" We fought our way past a group of growlers, every foot of ground paid for in blood, sweat, and fear. We were almost overtaken. Ty fell, but Rob snatched him right back up, and we kept moving. Growler bodies fell before our attacks. My vision became a tunnel. I was so angry. My gloves slick with blood that ran down the makeshift weapon. Everything had become a blur of growlers, blood, and the next threat. Somehow, we made it back to the motel parking lot. My Harley was still there. "Wait here," I said, and ran to my room. Grabbed as much of the bottled water as I had brought and threw it in my bag along with a shirt hanging on a chair. I ran back to the bike, threw my leg over him, and started the engine. It roared to life before becoming a healthy purr. Rob jumped on his bike and started his engine. "Come on, boy! We need to get out of here!" Ty nodded and gritted his teeth as he stumbled and got on the back of Rob's bike, his arm bloody. The city behind us was burning. Smoke rose in thick gray columns, curling through the building fog like ghosts. Folsom Street was unrecognizable. A battlefield of overturned tents, broken stalls and bodies. The music, the laughter, the leather-scented spirit of the fair, it was all gone. I gripped the handlebars tighter, knuckles cracking in my blood-soaked gloves, boots resting hard on the foot pegs. I was streaked with ash, grime, and blood that wasn't mine. The sound of my Harley cut through the distant screams and sirens, an unholy heartbeat in a city gone insane. We tore out of the parking lot, tires skimming wet asphalt, smoke and screams in our wake. My heart was hammering, lungs on fire. My leather harness felt heavy against my chest as if it was holding my grief-filled chest together, but barely. Rob and Ty were behind me, silent, their faces pale, their eyes scanning the streets like prey. Every corner held a threat. Every alley hid something that moved wrong. We had no illusions. Some of the people I'd laughed with yesterday were dead. Some worse. My stomach knotted at the thought of Marcus. The weight of his loss settling like a stone in my soul. We passed overturned motorcycles, burning cars, scattered bodies, and abandoned tents. Some of the growlers lurched into view, groaning, jerking unnaturally, their white eyes fixed on movement. I swung my boot when one lunged too close, sending it sprawling into a vendor cart. Rob cursed under his breath and accelerated past me. The streets of SoMa became a blur. Broken glass, spilled beer, the acrid tang of smoke. Everything etched into my senses. I rode past the dock, dark and silent, a ghost of the place where the weekend had started with laughter and lust. I took a turn on 8th Street and merged into the freeway ramp. The Bay Bridge stretched ahead. Fog curled over the steel like a shroud. Somewhere to the north of the freeway, the city seemed to burn brightly, a beacon of destruction. That destruction? It was happening so fast. I couldn't stop seeing Marcus's face as we wound our way past stalled and wrecked vehicles and panicked people. His last grin, the way his hand had brushed mine, the laugh we'd shared when we had reached that last vendor stall, gone. He was gone. Oh, fuck! Rob leaned close as we made our way past more cars.
Red, we're gonna make it, right?
I swallowed hard, keeping my eyes on the road. We have to, I said. My voice sounded hollow, even to me. We have to keep moving. Ty muttered something under his breath. A prayer, maybe a curse. I didn't ask. Didn't need to. The silence between us all was heavy, filled with the roar of engines and the cries of the city behind us. As I tried to focus more on the road, I glimpsed something ahead in the growing afternoon fog. A figure standing in the middle of the road, motionless, waiting? I tensed, ready to swerve, but the figure didn't move. Then, slowly it raised an arm, not threatening, not attacking, just pointing. Or maybe waving? I squinted. Could it be a survivor or a trap? I didn't know, and we didn't dare stop. The bridge stretched ahead, fog hiding the water of the bay below. The skyline of San Francisco burned behind us, smoke curling into the afternoon like reaching out for a world that no longer existed. We rode on, with no maps and no promises. Just the wind in my face, the roar of the engine, and the heavy, hollow ache of loss that would ride with me forever. I stared straight ahead, not daring to look back. Not yet. This uncertain world would take more. It always did. For now, all I had was my road brothers, the leather on my back, and the stark knowledge that the city and the man I loved had died behind me. somewhere out there, people would survive, and I intended to be one of them. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, please leave a like. It helps with the algorithm and will help the channel grow. If you have any suggestions and story ideas, please leave them in the comments. I will read them. There will be more stories under the Just Another Apocalypse banner, so please check back. Until then, have a good one.